Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Well, welcome to Smart Money Moves with MoneyMate today. My name is Elena Colquitt, and I'm the founder of MoneyMate. Today, I want to introduce you to one of our very special affiliate partners, Miss Lorraine Martin, who has over 13 years of experience as a financial advisor. She's going to go over a topic that's really near and dear to me, which is retirement planning for small business owners. It's a very, very important topic, and it's unfortunately something that a lot of small business owners kind of struggle with finding the balance and preparing for, and can find themselves in a position where they have started preparing for it too late. So we're going to dive into some important topics today related to planning for retirement as a small business owner. And Lorraine, if you would like to take a moment to introduce yourself to everybody, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Martin, as Elena said, and I am the Wealth and Money Coach. I love talking to small business owners. That's a demographic that's near and dear to my heart. Having so many family members and friends, I like to talk about my dad, who was 87 years old, and I've never known him to work for anybody. And so that's kind of in our blood, in our family's blood. He passed that down to my siblings, and now my nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews have been bitten by that bug. So small business owners are, it's in my DNA and it's in my family. And so speaking to this demographic, it means a whole lot to me on a personal level as well as a business level. So I love the opportunity. Thank you, Lena, for allowing me to do this.
Yeah, most definitely. So today we're going to talk about a few topics specific to retirement planning. So we're going to go kind of an overview on retirement plan options for small business owners. We're going to talk about the importance of keeping retirement plans separate from business assets. You know, we're always talking about not commingling, which is so important, and the impact of retirement planning on long-term security and business succession. So the first thing that I would like to talk about and hear from you, Lorraine, is how would a small business owner kind of go about setting retirement goals and timelines?
Sure. A small business owner, just like everybody else, even the employee, right? Setting that goal is, one of the things I like to say is retirement is a number, but it's not the one you think. Most people, when they hear retirement, they think age. That's the number they think about. But retirement is actually a money goal, right? If you have enough money at 40, you can retire. But if you don't have enough money at 80, you cannot, right? So, like with anything else with your business, whether it's your marketing or your revenue or whatever it is, setting your goal for retirement is equal as important. What age do you want to retire? How much income do you want to have in retirement? What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? And more these days, I'm including the question, where do you want to retire? Because more and more retirees are moving out of the country, out of the US, whether they're going home to their native land or they're deciding that living outside of the US is cheaper. So all those things factor in. I always like to say too, do you want to just sit on the porch and rock in the rocking chair, or do you want to travel to Europe a couple of times a year and take a few cruises a couple of times a year? So all those things factor into how much income, what kind of lifestyle you want to have, what age do you want to have, do you want to retire? And so those are some of the things to take into account when setting goals for retirement.
Thank you for that. So next, setting goals for retirement, understanding that now it's a number, not an age, but how much do you have? And that's a great point because I never even thought about that. But that is so true because my goal personally is to retire when I'm 45. So hopefully I'll kind of hit that mark and I will be able to kind of cover my expenses, and future aspirations by that time, God willing. So, how you arrive there is super important. And so, can you talk to us a little bit about some strategies for kind of spreading investment risk and how somebody should diversify their retirement investments?
Sure. So diversification comes in a couple of different ways, right? You can diversify with the type of investments that you have. you could have mutual funds, you could have annuities, you could have managed investments. Some people include real estate, right? Um, you may also, and we'll probably talk about this later on, you could probably include the income from the sale of your business. You could do, even though you're retired, some people include consulting, consulting fees in retirement. You could also include just any number of things can be included in that retirement, in that retirement piece. So you could diversify it in that way. But you inside of, let's say we're talking about a mutual fund, we talk about diversification within that fund because here now you can diversify according to the type of businesses that that mutual fund has inside of it. Before COVID, when I used to go to people's homes for appointments, I would oftentimes open their kitchen cabinets because my favorite mutual fund has stuff in there that you'll find in your kitchen cabinets. It has funds in there that you'll find on your TV because it may have Disney or Comcast or something in there, and any number of things like that. So you could have diversification in the type of businesses that are inside of your mutual fund or inside of your managed account or your annuity that you have money invested in.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's a good point. So for me, you know, one of my cash flow or sources of retirement is definitely real estate.
Mhm.
Um, for some people, especially like kind of now, when you're thinking about beyond mutual funds, can you talk to us about like what type of accounts there are that might,
Sure.
be made up in your retirement portfolio? Like I know, I've heard about SEPs, I've heard about traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. Can you kind of talk to us about like
Sure.
how those are different? Like, why you maybe use one or multiple different types
Yeah.
to kind of be a part of your retirement strategy and your goals?
Sure. So yeah, you mentioned SEP, you mentioned Roth and all of that. So there are so many different types of accounts depending on the entity, right? We could have 457s, we could have 403Bs. Usually those are for like nonprofit or government entities. But then most people would have heard of a 401k, right? And you think of a big company with a 401k, but believe it or not, an individual can have a 401k. It's often called a solo K or a solo 401k. So it could just be a owner and a spouse, right? No employees. Once you start having employees, now you have to have a traditional 401k. But you could also have a SEP, you could have a simple, you could have a traditional IRA, you could have a Roth IRA. And not to forego this piece too, inside of your solo 401k or your 401k, you can also have a Roth option in there, right? So the difference between most of the other ones that I mentioned to you and the Roth version, most of those other ones, the money go in not yet taxed. And so when you withdraw that, you pay taxes on the money that you put in as well as on the growth. The beauty of the Roth, whether it's a Roth IRA or the Roth inside of one of these other accounts that we talk about, the beauty of the Roth is that the money goes in already taxed and it comes out tax free. As long as the account has been open, the Roth IRA has
We
been open.
like that. We like that.
We love that. We love that. And the government knew that we would love it so much that they limit, it is one of the lowest limits that there is. They limit how much you can put in. You can only put in a maximum of 7,000 per year under 50. If you're over 50, you get to put in an extra 1,000 to make it 8,000 because they knew given the opportunity, people would put in a whole lot more. But I want to tell you there's a caveat for that. And I'm going to have people, you need to contact me so I can give you the rest of the story on this. But the truth is, there are ways to get around that, some legal ways, legal, nothing illegal here, I'm telling you. But there are ways to get around that $7,000 maximum that you can put in a Roth IRA by using one of the other options, like the 401k or the solo 401k with a Roth option inside of it. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's the Roth is a beautiful thing. When they offered that to us, they offered us a wonderful thing.
Yeah, because I know, and I know we're not here to talk about tax at all, but a small business owner, we're always concerned about taxes. So,
Absolutely.
that's huge to know that there are those options as
Hmm.
it relates to, retirement accounts acting as tax shelters for us because taxes are
Yeah.
expensive.
Yes. But and just to add to this, and I'm sure you know this, but for the folks out there who don't know this, if quite a few referrals I've gotten for people, for small business owners to start an investment account with me came from their CPA or their bookkeeper because they were paying taxes, right? And one of the ways to minimize the amount of taxes you pay is to have an investment account, is to have a retirement account, because that can help to reduce your taxable income. So if you are out there and you're having, as a small business owner, having to pay taxes, that may be something you may need to be looking into, right? You may think you cannot afford to start a retirement account, but it may be in your best interest to start a retirement account to minimize the amount of taxes that you're potentially paying. So just a thought.
No, I'm so glad that you touched on that because that was definitely a topic I was going to talk about next is that, with me managing cash flow for small business owners, that is something that they struggle with. So, we're paying all these business bills. They might have business debt, they might have vehicles, they have to figure out how to pay themselves as well. And then retirement, right? We can't forget retirement, we can't forget taxes, but then they really kind of struggle with kind of coming up with the cash flow to
Yeah.
put into these retirement accounts. And so I tell people, like, start small. Even if you can't
Mhm.
do anything more than like $200 a month,
Yeah.
you know, start small, do something, right? Because naturally there's going to be a gap for a lot of people. Most small businesses are not even really making a profit the first couple of years.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is a lot of them fail within the first couple of years. And those that are fortunate enough to make it beyond that, you might have had a time period where maybe you left corporate America to start your own job, and then you've had a gap of X amount of time where you have not contributed to a retirement account. So that leads people to really not understand how to identify what their retirement savings gap is, and
Yeah.
then how to figure out how to close it. So I
Yeah.
would love to hear from you maybe some techniques that people can take advantage of to boost their retirement contributions, and maybe some things that they can consider.
Sure. So there are, I created a list of what I call obstacles, right? That can cause people to not do what they should do, that can cause them to not be able to close that wealth gap. One of them is goals. Having that goal, or not having the goal, I should say, is one of the obstacles that people face. So the first thing I would say is create that goal. We have something called your FIN, your financial independence number. That's the money, the pot of gold, that lump sum that you need to be able to retire with a lifestyle that you want. So to me, that would be number one, to get that going, right? Once you have that, then you can see, based on what you're already doing, based on what you already have, are you on track, right? If you're not on track, what is the amount that you're deficient? And then based on that, we can extrapolate. So could it be that you need to have a budget, right? Because having a budget, and I'm not talking for the business, for the household, having a budget can help you to find where those dollars may be falling through the cracks, right? Dollar saved is a dollar earned. And so if you can
That's
find
why
those
they need
dollars.
to use MoneyMate. Look.
Exactly. That's why they need to use MoneyMate, so they can find all those dollars that are being wasted. So yeah, so if you can find those dollars, that's more money that you can put towards your retirement. Another thing that is debt. Having too much debt that you're servicing can cause you to not have enough to be able to put towards your retirement as well. So getting rid of debt as quickly as possible, minimize the amount of interest that you pay out of all that stuff, set you on track. Consider if you're debt free. If you're paying a lot of debt right now, think about if you're debt free and be able to put all of that towards your retirement. What a difference that could make, right? Um, so those are just two of the biggest that I talk about.
Interest alone, right? The
In
interest alone
Yes,
that you're accruing
exactly,
each month,
exactly,
if you could just
exactly,
put that in a retirement account, that would help
exactly.
people tremendously.
Yeah. Yes. And then, oh, one of the other things I want to mention too is having a plan, right? Which is something that I offer. Other advisors do too. I offer that, and it's absolutely free to consult with me to create your plan. Because once you create that plan, it It includes all of those pieces, the financial independence number, the age you want to retire, all of that is included. The debt pay down, you can see the dates you'll be debt free. Once that's freed up, how much you can put towards your retirement, what you're paying for debt is going to equal to by the age you want to retire, right? The budget, I help folks as far as creating their budget as well too. So all of those pieces, just having that plan and including all those pieces can really help you to boost towards retirement.
Definitely. So how should people kind of assess their current retirement savings and their coverage, excuse me, like determining how much they need for comfortable retirement? Are there kind of any tricks or things that you would tell people in helping them to determine like how much I need, like what's my number?
Sure. So rule of thumb has been 80% of what you're living on now is what you should have in retirement. But that's been thrown out the window because so many times people want 150% of what they're making now, right? And believe it or not, I have clients who will be making more in retirement than they do when they're working. I have 3 right now in the past 2 years that I've met with that will be making more in retirement. And that's a beautiful thing for them. That is not the case for a lot of people, especially if you're behind the 8 ball or you're not able to put in the amount that you need to be putting in, right? But you can, I'm sorry, where was I going with that question again? There's so much information I want to be sharing that I'm like, okay, let me pause right here. But what was the
No, you're
question?
fine. The question was assessing their current retirement
Yes,
savings and
yes.
coverage.
Right. So yeah, so those are just some of the things that people can do, but then you can get much more specific, right? So somebody may say they want to have $8,000 a month in retirement, but they're probably including their mortgage, they're probably including a car note, they're probably including all those things. And my goal is for folks to retire debt free. Because if you need $8,000 a month in retirement to pay the mortgage and the car notes and the credit card bills and all that stuff, what if you're debt free? You probably only need a half of that, right? So those are just some of the things to think about. Be specific. Yes, we know health insurance is going to cost quite a bit, so we have to factor that in. We know, certain things are going to have to be and again, the lifestyle you want to have as well too. So when you factor in all those things, you're able to come up with a figure in today's dollars. And based on your age that you want to retire, I include inflation to say it's going to grow by this much more and become with a much more exact figure. Sometimes it's less than you're making now. Sometimes it's about the same. And sometimes it's going to be more, because you may be kind of sacrificing things right now so that you can blow it out in retirement. So it's going to vary for everybody, but there is a way that we can really help you to calculate and figure out what is that figure that can get you as close to that goal as possible.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Um, So addition, kind of going back to like techniques to boost retirement contributions,
Mhm.
would you say like that if somebody had say they're like 55 and they are nowhere near what they want to have saved for retirement, would
Mhm.
you recommend that they do like more riskier stocks? Like I know like everybody's kind of trying to get into day trading and looking
I
at
know. I know.
Bitcoin and crypto and all the different things.
Mhm.
So it's like all the stuff that you're constantly hearing about on social media, and it can be really kind of tempting to
Yeah.
take on higher risk. So what are your thoughts on higher risk and how people can kind of diversify their portfolio to close their retirement gaps?
That's the word, diversification, right? But everybody's risk tolerance is going to be different. I have 20 something year olds who are like, no, if I lose $1, I'm going to panic. And I have 55-year-olds like, you know what, I'm behind the 8 ball, let have at it. So everybody's risk tolerance is going to be a little bit different. But when you're behind the 8 ball, sometimes you're just going to have to play the game. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to take a little bit more risk than you're more comfortable with. But one of the things I like to say, so let's say you are 55, like so many people and are behind the 8 ball. Statistics show that so many people at 55 have like less than $25,000 at safe for retirement, right? That's a fact. That's the reality, right? I think it's like 36% of people, right? And so if that is the case, you're going to have a tough conversation. At 55, the good thing is at 55, you're likely to have Social Security. right? By the time you get ready to retire in the next 10, 15 years. So that's a good thing. You can factor that in as piece of your retirement. Um, the other thing is you're going to want to make sure that you are debt free as much as possible. Because if you're not going to have a whole lot of income, and these are conversations I'm having all day long, every day with folks, right?
I know it. I tell people all the time, like, you should not have a mortgage when you retire.
Exactly.
That mortgage
Exactly.
needs to be paid off. So
And
stop
that
refinancing, stop pulling equity out. Like, stop it.
it's a difference maker. It is a big difference maker. So if you are 55 and behind the eight ball, big things to do. Factor in Social Security, go to ssa.gov, create an account, see what the payouts will be at the different ages, not 62. If you are 55 and behind the eight ball retirement, you do not want to look at taking your Social Security at 62. You want to at least wait until full retirement age, which is likely going to be closer to 67, right? So factor in Social Security. Go hard right now as far as setting stuff aside. Yes, you may need to make some sacrifices, but you're sacrificing today for to have a decent lifestyle for tomorrow, right? So sacrifice some stuff, set some money aside, right? And then be as debt free as possible. Those are the biggies. Yes, as far as the investment, you're asking about what the investment pieces are. I'm not going to say to go throw caution to the wind, but be very deliberative with it and don't necessarily put 100% of whatever you're putting away into whatever that higher risk thing may be. Because the reality is, even when you retire, let's say you do retire at 67, you're not going to need all of your money on day one, right? So you could potentially be a little bit more conservative with some of the money that you're going to need in those first few years. And the monies that you're going to need later on, probably take a little bit more risk with them to earn a little bit more. We also have investment vehicles that have some guarantees in them that clients may be able to take advantage of, right? Some with no fees that have a really good track record of earnings. So you're going to have to talk to your financial advisor and really see what options are out there that you're comfortable with and that can set you in a path that you can have a decent amount of income to supplement whatever it is that you have coming from Social Security and probably other sources that you might have. And this is where somebody may really want to look at, yes, I'm retired from hardcore 40, 50-hour work week, but I may be able to do a consulting thing for 10 hours a week or something like that. So just some things to think about.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback, because, you always think about income coming in, right? When you're talking about retirement and paying bills and you're thinking about the cash flow, at least I am, right? So until you made that point about minimizing how much debt you have, like that is another way to close the gap, right? So if you
Mhm.
don't have enough income
Yeah.
coming here and you got, you reduce your expenses here or you got high enough expenses, you got this gap. But if you
Yeah.
reduce your expenses, it kind of closes that gap, right? So you don't
Absolutely.
need as much money coming in every month if
Right.
you don't have to pay as much out. So that
Right.
that was great. That was
Mhm.
great. And that was something I hadn't considered. And like you said, it doesn't mean that you have to throw caution to the wind, but maybe if you say, hey, I'm going to be super aggressive with this 10% or
Right. Right.
15%. And then the other things I will kind of spread out a little
Mhm.
bit more from a well-rounded standpoint, a little bit more conservatively, a little bit more moderately,
Yeah.
to make sure that you have like a balanced approach because if something does happen, and then another great perspective that you shared is like you don't need all your retirement accounts all your retirement funds at
A day one.
67. You're going to be drawing on this over time. And so, depending on the makeup of your retirement account, you can continue to work on building what you have
Yep.
left to continue to provide for you once you hit
Later
75, once
on.
you hit 80, once you hit 85. So
Yep.
that's huge. So thank you. That was great.
Cool.
Um, so we talked about the gap. Now we talked about a little bit kind of assessing current retirement savings and coverage,
Mhm.
determining how much you need to live comfortably. You touched on retiring debt free or trying to be as close to debt free as possible. One of my mentors always says, like, if you don't owe anybody, you don't have to do anything. And I love that because I
Mm.
didn't think about that. He's
Mm.
like, if you don't owe anybody for your car note, for your mortgage, for this, for that,
Yeah.
you don't have to get up and do anything. If all
Yeah.
you have to worry about paying is your taxes and putting food in your mouth,
Right.
you don't have to make very much money.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the
That's
point.
awesome. Yeah. So now let's talk about, we've been growing our business now for 20 years, 10 years, whatever. And now it's time that I'm ready to retire. I'm getting tired. This body can't take it anymore.
Mhm,
I'm ready to kind of live my life. Let's talk about business succession and
mhm.
exits. We love to talk about that, right? The exit strategy planning.
Can
So
I
what tips do you have regarding like structuring a business sale to fund retirement?
can I share a quick story with you? I have it as story time when I do my thing. Story time. Jerry and Kevin are now 74 and 76, right? Jerry was a school teacher, and so she had access to a little pension, a 403b, and the stuff that comes with working in the school system. Kevin owned an auto body shop, and so he provided for the family well throughout their life. Right? They lived quite well and everything else too. Paid for the kids for college and all of that. The sale of his business was factored into their retirement, and so he sold the business. They both retired and went off into the sunset. It's 12 years later, right? Jerry's 403b is gone. The money from the sale of the business that Kevin sold is gone. He had minimized his social security, during while he was had his business. And so his social security is like anemic, right? Hers is pretty good. So thankfully hers is pretty good. And she still has that little pension, and his is anemic, right? And so the idea is that he thought through the fact that the sale of the business would be part of his retirement, but he did not think through what to do with that lump sum when it came in. They were living like they were when they were both working and bringing in regular income. And before you know it, they depleted that, right? So a couple of things that Kevin did not do. He didn't start early enough talking about that succession planning. He knew in his head that that's what he wanted to do, but he didn't have that long game and that long conversation. He didn't transfer the knowledge to whoever was potentially going to be purchasing it, because he probably could have asked for more, for example, if he had transferred knowledge and sold it with enough goodwill and all that stuff, right? Um, he didn't document the plan.
Or
That's
even a
another.
stipend, right? Because,
Well, that
for
exactly, because there are companies
depending
that
on if
do
you
that
own
for a
some
certain period of
equity, you
time.
could still
Yep,
possibly be drawing
exactly.
dividends.
Exact, or do
Good
consulting.
point.
He could have
Yep.
consulted, stayed on, not in the day-to-day running of the business, but gone in and do consulting for some certain number of hours. He probably did not get any legal advice beforehand. And he sure enough did not consult with his financial advisor to say what to do with that money once it came in, right? So using Kevin and Jerry as the example as to what a business owner now looking at succession planning, those the things that he did not do are the things that a business owner ought to be looking to do as they get ready to do that.
Huge, huge. Yeah. So, yes. So, key considerations, what are they when it comes to the business succession planning?
When you say key considerations, you mean like in terms of what?
For like succession planning, like you kind of touched on, which is like how you're going to sell the business, when you're going to sell the
Okay.
business,
Yeah,
how you get paid from it, if you would
exactly.
continue to get paid from it, like you said.
And you touched on that, because there are cases where you can do that, where you can continue the payment for a certain period of time, right? And that prolongs the source of income. As a matter of fact, I had a family member that did that, who sold a restaurant. And that's what she did. It's been a couple of years and she's still getting monies. They paid a lump sum up front and she's still getting monies, however frequently, from the sale of that restaurant.
Corporations do that all the time, but
Yes,
unfortunately, small
yes,
business owners don't think about that
yeah.
or know maybe that it's a possibility for them to do that.
And a lot of times we go out there and sell the business on our own. There are people called business brokers who do that on your behalf, who can more properly evaluate, sometimes bring you down to reality, but sometimes bring you up as well, or show you certain things that you can do to help to bring more value to that sale. So there are business brokers who work, that are able to bring the parties together and make as good a deal as possible can be done. So those are just some of the things that can be done to help to maximize the return on that sale, and making sure that your business is in good standing before you sell it as well too. Not just the building, but also the books and all that other stuff as well too. Make sure that they're on the up and up. So that can increase the value as well.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. Now, when it comes to insurance and kind of protection plans, can you help us understand the role that insurance can have in retirement planning?
Sure, sure. And so we had talked about, or one of the things I like to talk about is when we say insurance, I don't know, in my world, life insurance comes to mind, right? Because that's my thing. But the reality is that insurance of all types creates that sense of security and gives protection, whether you're talking about homeowners or auto, whatever it is. As far as a business owner is concerned, the three biggest that I talk about are disability, right? Because God forbid something happens to the business owner and they are unable to work for any period of time, right? Disability insurance can factor in and step in to pay the bills and do whatever needs to be done while you recuperate and recover. There's also long-term care insurance. That is, if you don't have to be retired to need long-term care insurance, something could happen, before you get to retirement age, that has to factor in. You don't want to deplete what you've accumulated, having to pay for long-term care, whether somebody to come into the home or for you to go into a facility. So having long-term care insurance is important. Life insurance is also important, and it's important for the business as well as for the family unit, right? Because there's something called a key man policy, which a business can get, where key people in the business can have life insurance that's owned and paid for by the business, that if that person dies, money is there to continue the business until decisions can be made, whether it's the owner or the CEO or the CFO or key people. That's why it's called a key man policy. So those policies can be there to pay out to the business, not to the individual, so the business can continue to run while you seek, replacement or seek to sell it or whatever it might be, right? On the other hand, life insurance is also important for the family unit, because if that business owner sometimes is the only breadwinner for the family, and if not the only breadwinner, they are a significant breadwinner coming into the family as well. And if that person should die, what happens to the family if there's no income replacement, which is what I call life insurance, income replacement. So it's critical to have income replacement. And we're not talking about a burial policy, because especially if you have children, minor, who are relying on your income to eat or to go to college, having a 25 or $50,000 policy is not going to be any good. If you're bringing in $100,000 a year and you have an 8-year-old, what happens for the next 10 years of that child's life when all you had was a couple of $1,000s? So people sometimes don't think about the fact that they may need a $500,000 or $1 million or $1.5 million in life insurance, that God forbid something happens to them, the mortgage can be paid off, or the kids can go to college, or mom can stay home and continue to raise the kids, or whatever it might be. So life insurance is critical as far as income replacement for a business owner and or breadwinner.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I wanted to ask you too, can all business entity types have life insurance underneath the business? Like what if you're a sole proprietor?
I'm honestly not sure about a key man policy for a sole. You know what? I'm not sure. I'd have to look into that and find out if a sole proprietor can have a key man policy. It seems to make sense to me, because the same rule would apply, right? The business needs to keep running until you can sell it or do whatever else. But I can always find out for sure about that. But definitely most other business entities have that. Churches have it. I have a client who's a minister of a church, and the church owns the policy on the pastor, a key man policy on the pastor. So all kinds of different entities can and do have key man policies that the business, or in this case, the church, owns and pays for. And is the beneficiary. The church is a beneficiary as well.
Gotcha. And so what should a developing an action plan when it comes to retirement planning look like for a small business owner?
Create a plan, literally create a plan, because that is what I offer. I so stress that, because it's free. It doesn't cost anything, and you're not obligated to do business with me. I have literally had people take the plan from me and take to their advisor, because my I'm a little bit different from most other financial advisors, right? So many financial advisors, their bread and butter and all that they talk about is investments. I talk about all aspects of your finances. And so when I create a plan, it's going to include investments, whether it's retirement or, college savings for the kids. I'm going to talk about life insurance, debt management, emergency fund. I'm also going to talk about having a trust and a will, because that is so important as well, right? I'm going to talk about having emergency savings, because if an emergency were to pop up, if you don't have emergency savings, you're going to tap into your retirement. So it's critical to have that as well too. So I talk about all of those things. So when somebody sits down with me, I'm helping them to create a plan that includes all of those things, and then some. There may be other pieces I haven't even talked about that could very well be included in that plan. So I would say, for a small business owner, create a plan. If you have somebody other than me that does that, can do that for you, go get the plan done. Sometimes there's a fee, could be $100, $300, $1,500. If you're willing to go pay that, go pay it and get the plan done. To me, that is step one. Because that way, a lot of times when they're having the small business owners having these conversations, they've never thought through this before. They've never thought through what age they want to retire. They've never thought through how much income they want to have in retirement. How much life insurance do they need? And so by creating that plan, you get to hear yourself say these things. You get to define it. You get to put it down on paper and see for yourself, exactly what it is that you want to be doing, where you want to be going, and all of that as well. So get the plan done. That's number one. Then execute the plan. That's number two.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. I have learned a lot from you today, as relates to retirement planning, and maybe there's some stuff I even knew, but hearing you say it kind of really pulled it together for me. So this was such a wonderful, wonderful call this afternoon. I thank you so much for being one of our affiliate partners for MoneyMate, and just being a source of expertise for insurance, investments, retirement planning for our small business owners. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
I think I covered the most of it. What I would like, well, you'll probably give me the opportunity to do that, to put some information or a link that folks can connect with me, because I'd love to do that. I'm absolutely serious. I will do this plan, no cost or obligation, right? Because I think it's just so critically important to know these numbers, right? So more than anything else, I just implore you, the small business owner, yes, you're focused on your business. I know it's your baby, it's your heart, it's all of that. But if you don't start paying attention to this now, it's going to get to the point where it becomes an emergency. And we don't want to get there, right? If you start early, you can put in $585 a month over 30 years, 9%, and have $1 million. If you wait until you're 50 something, it's no longer 585, it's now $2,500 a month, right? So you can start now, start with a couple of $100 if that's all you can afford. We can set an automatic increase, and just, you don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to think about it. And before you know it, you have a $500,000, then you have $1 million, and you breathe a sigh of relief, because when the day comes, you can say, I don't want to work anymore, and you don't have to work anymore. And that's my goal for you.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you. It was a great, great call this afternoon. And I hope that you all will continue to tune in and to join us for future Smart Money Move sessions with our affiliate partners, because we want to continue to share information on topics that are, important for small business owners that are going to help you to be successful in reaching your financial goals. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great afternoon.
All right, you too. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.